I wanted to talk for a minute about poverty because that came up, and whether or not you acknowledge that sort of to a large degree, the laws in our country have led to and contributed a lot to the lack of affordable housing, particularly through land use laws, zoning laws, and building laws. What happens is when people are free to do what they want, historically they've been able to find housing for themselves in the biggest metropolises in the world when real estate is very expensive, because they make choices between living slightly less healthily than maybe you would want them to, living with a few more people in the room than the police would like them to, but they're allowed to stay there. With these particular laws, people are drug out of their homes when too many people are living in them. You're not allowed to build too close together because it may pose an earthquake risk. All those people are willing to make the trade-off.
Question, please. Did you get to the question?
So, I'm just wondering, do you acknowledge that government does that, and would your organization be willing to oppose all laws dealing with the regulation on housing so prices could come down and people could afford to build whatever they wanted to shelter?
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I would recognize, yes, that actually does contribute to the price of housing. I mean, I don't have any problem with recognizing reality. And zoning laws have contributed to the increased price of housing. But you then have to go further and say, is it the only source of the inequalities in the housing market? And that's also crucial to recognize at the same time. So that you don't, if in a given community where the price of land has been escalated through demand from the private market, and the number of people have been priced out of that market through simple market forces, you have to say, if you believe only in the market, tough. You're out in the cold, you freeze to death, your children freeze to death. We would go one step further and say, look, sometimes government has to step in and, for example, and build housing. Government has to subsidize people to rent housing in order to have the right to a decent kind of life.
But how often is it the government, through eminent domain and through preferential political licensing for large housing projects, further contributing to exactly the problem you called the market problem?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like the market
As
problem.
long as you've got enough land out there, infinite amounts of land, then your market principles work. If land, but once land becomes a limited commodity,
We're both
price
talking.
goes up.
We're both talking.
Okay.
We're going to have to leave yours there. I'm sorry.